Astronomically speaking, 2025 was a legendary year. We had 2 blood moons, spectacular auroras light up November, 3 back-to-back supermoons, and of course, the stunning comet A6 Lemon in October. But if you thought that was big, just wait for 2026. This year is going to be even more insane. We're talking about 4 eclipses, a rare planetary parade, a once-in-a-lifetime comet, and a celestial doubleheader that astronomers are calling the event of the century. Here are the 7 most incredible celestial events coming your way in 2026. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss these. If you're an eclipse chaser, 2026 is going to be your busiest year in decades. We're looking at a full calendar of 4 major events, but let's be honest, one of them completely steals the show. We start on February 17th with the annular solar eclipse. This is the famous Ring of Fire, where the moon is too far from Earth to cover the sun completely, leaving a bright ring of sunlight visible. The bad news? It's arguably the most remote eclipse possible. The Ring of Fire will be visible only if you're hanging out with the penguins near the South Pole. However, if you're in Southern Africa or South America, you will still see a significant partial eclipse. Then, on March 3rd, the moon takes center stage with a total lunar eclipse. This will be visible across the Americas, the Pacific, parts of Asia, Russia, and Australia. As the moon slides into Earth's deep shadow, it will turn to dark, rusty red, the classic blood moon. A blood moon eclipse is one of the most captivating celestial events. This phenomenon occurs during a total lunar eclipse, when the Earth aligns perfectly between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow over the lunar surface. This total lunar eclipse will last 3 hours and 27 minutes, starting at 9:50 UTC, with the blood moon phase lasting for 1 hour, beginning at 11:05 UTC. This is going to be the 3rd consecutive total lunar eclipse. But everything leads up to August 12, 2026. For the first time since 1999, a total solar eclipse will hit the European mainland. The path of totality is incredibly dramatic. It starts in the Arctic, sweeps over Greenland and western Iceland, and then plunges down into northern Spain. Major cities will see the sun vanish completely for about 1 to 2 minutes. What makes this eclipse unique is the timing. In Spain, totality happens late in the evening, just minutes before sunset. This means the eclipsed sun will be hanging just a few degrees above the horizon. It is going to be a photographer's dream of the decade. We wrap up the year on August 28th with a partial lunar eclipse. It's a deep partial, meaning 93% of the moon will be in shadow, leaving just a tiny silver sliver illuminated. It's a fantastic cool-down lap after the madness of the solar eclipse earlier in the month. The final eclipse of the year will be visible from the Americas, parts of Africa, and Europe. On February 28, 2026, we are going to witness a grand planetary parade. You'll often see headlines screaming about rare alignments, but this one actually lives up to the hype. 6 planets, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, and Uranus, will be strung out across the evening sky simultaneously. Here's how to see it. Go outside about 30 to 45 minutes after sunset and look west. Low on the horizon, you'll find Mercury and Venus. Venus will be blazing bright, making it the brightest speck of light in the sky. Mercury will be fainter and lower, so you'll need a clear view of the horizon to catch it before it sets. Moving higher up and to the south, you'll find Saturn glowing in a steady yellow gold. Right next to it is Neptune. They'll be close together in the constellation Pisces, but Neptune is too faint to see with the naked eye. Finally, dominating the high southern sky, you'll find the giant Jupiter near the moon. If you have binoculars, scan the area between Jupiter and the Pleiades star cluster to find the green dot of Uranus. A waxing gibbous moon will be hanging close to Jupiter, like a crown jewel of the planetary necklace. You can download one of the space apps given in the description to easily locate the planets according to your place. "2026 saves a little bit of magic for the very end. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, we are getting the largest supermoon of the year. A supermoon isn't just a marketing term, it has a real astronomical definition. The moon's orbit isn't a perfect circle, it's an oval. Once a month it hits perigee, its closest point to Earth. When that perigee lines up perfectly with a full moon phase, you get a supermoon. On this specific night, the moon will be roughly 221,600 miles away. That is about 16,800 miles closer than average. To the naked eye, it will appear about 14% larger and, more noticeably, 30% brighter than a micromoon. Because this happens in winter for the northern hemisphere, the moon will climb very high in the sky around midnight. The moon illusion will also be in full effect. When the moon rises at sunset, it will look absolutely massive against the foreground of trees or buildings. If you're celebrating Christmas, it adds a wonderful atmosphere to the holiday. If you're a photographer, this is your chance to get that iconic shot of a massive moon rising behind a lit-up church or a snowy city skyline, a perfect nightlight for the end of the year. Let's talk about the wild card of 2026, Comet C/2025 R3 PanSTARRS. Comets are notoriously unpredictable. Astronomers like to say they are like cats. They have tails and do precisely what they want. But the data on this visitor looks promising. This is a long-period comet from the outer solar system, meaning this is likely its first and only trip through our inner solar system. The comet reaches its closest point to the Sun around April 20th, 2026. Standard models predict it will reach magnitude 7 or 8, which is only visible with good binoculars. However, there is a twist that has scientists excited: forward scattering. In late April, the comet will pass almost directly between the Earth and the Sun. This is a rare geometric lineup. Think of it like driving a car into the sunset with a dirty windshield. Suddenly, the dust lights up and becomes blindingly bright. The dust in the comet's tail could scatter sunlight toward Earth in the same way, potentially boosting the comet's brightness by huge factors. If this happens, the comet could jump to magnitude 3 or 4, making it visible to the naked eye. You'll want to look for it in the twilight, low on the horizon. For the northern hemisphere, it's a morning object in the east. For the southern hemisphere, it's better viewed in the evening west. Even if it doesn't have a massive outburst, it will be a beautiful binocular target. Look for a fuzzy, grayish star with a short tail hanging in the deep blue of the twilight glow. I'm going to make a bold claim. August 12, 2026 will be the best night for meteor watching in a decade. We all know the Perseids. They are reliable, producing 60 to 100 meteors per hour every summer. But usually, the moon ruins the party. A bright full moon can wash out up to 90% of the meteors, leaving you seeing only the biggest fireballs. In 2026, the universe has aligned perfectly for us. Remember that total solar eclipse I mentioned earlier on August 12th? Well, a solar eclipse can only happen during a new moon. That means on the night of August 12th and the morning of August 13th, the moon is completely invisible. You'll have 100% dark skies. This is critical because it means you will be able to see the faint, delicate meteors that you usually miss. If you can get to a dark sky site away from city lights, you could realistically count 100 plus shooting stars per hour. The shower radiates from the constellation Perseids, which rises in the northeast. The best time to watch is between midnight and 4 a.m. your local time, when the radiant point is high in the sky. You don't need telescopes or binoculars. Just give your eyes 20 to 30 minutes to adjust to the dark, and the meteors will start appearing everywhere. This is the doubleheader of the century, a total solar eclipse by day and a moonless meteor storm by night. That night the skies will be crystal clear, but clarity like that isn't always easy to find, especially down here on Earth. Most of us only see a narrow slice of reality, shaped by the outlets we follow, the region we live in, or the algorithm that feeds us headlines. And when it comes to science news, it gets even trickier. Headlines are often exaggerated or oversimplified to get clicks. That's why I use Ground News. It's a platform that helps you cut through bias and hype by comparing how different media outlets are covering the same story. It shows you political slant, headline framing, and even what stories you might be missing entirely. For example, when the Geminid meteor shower was about to peak in 2025, I wanted to make sure I was reading unbiased, credible coverage. Ground News made that easy. This story was covered by 177 news sources, and with Ground News, I could instantly see that the bias distribution was almost equal. I could even check the factuality ratings of each outlet, verified by 3 independent media monitoring organizations. And here's something cool. The founder of Ground News is a former NASA engineer, so you'll find a strong foundation for trustworthy science coverage too. My favorite feature? The blind spot. It highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, so you're always aware of what your feed might be leaving out. If you're only interested in topics like science, technology, or space, there's even a feature called Interest Pages that filters the noise and shows you only what matters to you. And for viewers of this channel, there's a special offer. For a limited time, you can subscribe and get 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage plan by scanning this QR code on screen or heading to ground.news/SOU. The link is also in the description. Now, back to space. On June 9th, 2026, the 2 brightest specks of light in the night sky are going to meet up. This is the Jupiter-Venus conjunction. Planetary conjunctions happen often, but a meeting between Venus and Jupiter is special because of their sheer brilliance. Venus shines at a dazzling magnitude of -4, while Jupiter glows a softer, creamy gold at magnitude -1.9. When they get close, they look like a pair of headlights in the sky. On this night, they'll be separated by just 1.6 degrees. To visualize that, hold your pinky finger out at arm's length. That's roughly 1 degree, so they'll be just slightly wider than your pinky finger apart. You won't need a telescope or even binoculars for this. In fact, it's best viewed with the naked eye. Look west about 45 minutes after sunset. They'll be about 23 degrees above the horizon in the constellation Gemini. Because they are so bright, they'll pop out of the twilight long before the other stars appear. It's a fantastic photo opportunity. You can capture them with a standard smartphone camera, especially if you frame them above a city skyline or a mountain range. This is technically in a pulse, meaning their apparent distance is minimal from our perspective, even though in reality they are hundreds of millions of miles apart. It's a beautiful cosmic illusion. As a bonus, look west again on June 18th. By then, the separation between Jupiter and Venus will have increased, and you'll see the crescent moon and Mercury aligned with the pair. If you thought the sky was done showing off after the summer, you're wrong. 2026 is going to finish exactly the way it started, with a massive planetary alignment. In late December, as the holiday week unfolds, you'll get an encore performance. 5 planets, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune, will appear together in the night sky around 10 p.m. local time. It is a crowded sky. You'll have the gas giants spread out across the dark, with the bright moon traveling between them night after night. But the specific dates you want to mark are December 25th and 26th. On Christmas night and Boxing Day, the view will be especially striking. You'll see a distinct diagonal line forming above the eastern horizon. The lineup will be Mars, the giant Jupiter, and a waning gibbous moon. They will rise together and travel in a procession across the sky until dawn breaks. While Mars and Jupiter will be bright and obvious to the naked eye, this is another great chance to bust out the binoculars to hunt for the fainter targets. Uranus and Neptune will be part of this group, though you'll need optical aid to spot them. And just as Saturn and Neptune begin to set in the pre-dawn hours, Venus will soar above the eastern horizon, creating a second mini-alignment right before sunrise. It is a poetic end to the year. You can stand outside in the cold holiday air and see our celestial neighbors lined up one last time, as if they are taking a final bow before 2027 begins. So thanks for watching, and thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video. If you're tired of clickbait headlines and just want the real story, especially in science, scan this QR code or head to the link ground.news/SOU given in the description. You'll get 40% off the Vantage plan and finally see the news like you see the universe, clearly.